I inadvertently outed my ex-husband, and now my daughter won't speak to me anymore. We were together for 16 years. Nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for the fact that he was having unprotected intimate time with men for the past 7 years of our marriage. There were no red flags. He was always caring, attentive, a good listener, and a generous lover. I thought I found my soulmate, as cliché as it sounds. Hardworking, responsible. He encouraged me to finish my degree while he worked during my daughter's early years. Now, it's been 6 months of divorce proceedings, and I still feel like I'm trapped in someone else's nightmare. While we were moving houses, I found his secret phone. At first, I thought one of his friends must have forgotten theirs when they were helping us pack up some things, but as I picked it up I accidentally clicked the side button and the screen lit up with a picture of him and a man kissing. I tried his passcode and it worked. I'll spare you the long and many details, but yes, he is either gay or bi and has had multiple long-term relationships with various men, as well as plenty of hookups. There were at least 30 men he'd had unprotected intimate time with. I'm embarrassed to admit that I vomited after reading all that correspondence. I don't dislike gay people. His family is very liberal, blue voting, with multiple family members openly gay. My family is very accepting. We attended pride events with my younger siblings. For God's sake, why the hiding? Why the sneaking? It didn't really matter. I filed for divorce the next day, and he turned into a vindictive monster that fought me on everything. From the custody of our daughter, to a set of fancy vintage porcelain figurines. He made outlandish claims that I was to reimburse for the amount he paid for my studies from the marital budget. My lawyer and I spent many days reading the crap he sent through his attorney. Ultimately, due to inability to reach an agreement, we went in front of a judge. It went about as well as you think it did. He and his lawyer, who was one of the men he was cheating with, apparently, spewed absolutely garbage nonsense. According to him, I was a negligent parent, I didn't deserve a family, and I'm a wronged greedy trophy wife, whatever that meant. Ultimately, me and my lawyer brought up the fact that he continuously put my health at risk by engaging in irresponsible intimate behavior. He had potentially exposed me to countless transmitted diseases. Needless to say, it was a dumpster fire, but the judge ended up siding with me. Partially due to my story, but mainly due to the shouting my husband was doing. They were worried he might get violent, so they escorted him out and he had to finish the trial in a Zoom call. Out of sheer luck, I didn't end up getting anything, but I'm still scared. I feel disgusting and violated, and I'm going to have to get tested every month for the next 6 years for advice from my gynecologist. And the cherry on top? I'm not sure how, but his escapades got out to the extended family. Most of the gay folks on both sides essentially cut him off, with one of the older uncles showing up to his job to berate him. His own father apparently called to scream at him, and his mother's health is getting worse due to stress. As for my daughter? She's furious that I outed him. She, in very Gen Z fashion, is giving me the cold shoulder because I could have ruined his life. She's in therapy already, and this situation isn't helping at all. If anything, it seems she started using pop psychology lingo she hears to berate me. She doesn't seem to understand that I wasn't the one that destroyed our relationship and trust, and doesn't seem to care that my ex-husband put me in extremely high amounts of risk. I remember being 7 years old and hearing my mom cry because one of her art college friends was dying of AIDS. I remember the marches, I remember being 12, and my dad giving me and my siblings a speech about the importance of protection and how they might literally prevent us from dying young. Yes, HIV isn't a death sentence nowadays, but we live in a city with one of the highest rates in the US. I just wish I could make her understand that I wasn't outing my husband, rather bringing him to the justice he deserved.
What was the most disturbing thing you found your partner doing? I've always been suspicious of my girlfriend's ability to stay calm, even in heated arguments. She never seems to get upset or anything. Well, last night I found out how she deals with her pent-up anger, and it was horrifying. That night, we were talking about the recent submarine events, and we both had different opinions on the matter. Anyway, I thought it was lighthearted because of how she always spoke calmly and even laughed at some points. That was until she got up, and just ended it with, "You know what? Don't talk to me." I tried to tell her it doesn't matter, but she kept cutting me off, going, yeah. Basically telling me to shut up. So, here I am feeling like crap. I wake up in the middle of the night, and she's not in our bed. Whatever, I don't control her, right? Then, I heard the door of the bathroom open, so I figured she just went to the toilet. I feel gross detailing this out, but whatever. I could hear her pee hitting the bowl, but I didn't hear her flush. Instead, she opened the door, and I heard her walk away. I was slightly worried, and I needed to use the bathroom anyway, so I got up to see what was going on. What I saw truly horrified me in ways I'm still not capable of completely explaining. I walked out to see her in the living room, holding one of the food containers that had some leftovers. Next to her was a glass, filled with a yellow liquid. I could instantly distinguish it by its looks and stench. What she did next nearly made me throw up then and there. She poured the glass into the food. I immediately screamed at her, demanding to know what the hell she thought she was doing. She had a deer-caught-in-headlight look on her face, and flinched, causing them to go everywhere. I kept screaming at her, and she started crying, saying she's sorry over and over. I told her I demand an explanation, or she was free to call her mom and leave. Apparently, the reason she's always so calm and happy the morning after arguments where she gets mad, is because she does this. She drinks a whole lot of water, and in the night when I sleep, she goes and pours it in food. Apparently this started with simply pouring it on my belongings. I was disgusted. I screamed at her some more and I don't even feel guilty that she cried. I told her to get out of my house, or I'm calling the police. She tried to beg but eventually left. I sent her a message to get someone to get her stuff, that were over and blocked her. I don't even know what to say. I feel violated, and disgusted. The fact she knew what she was doing, watched me eat it, and never felt guilty. Even the thought of it makes me want to throw up.
What is the biggest bullet you've ever dodged? The boyfriend who broke up with me after I got diagnosed with cancer. Some weeks ago, when my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer, she finally divulged one of our family's deepest secrets. Our family had a history of breast cancer, and had killed many of the females in our family tree. It had taken my aunt when she was 46, and my grandma when she was 58. The others still needed to check every couple of months for bumps, and so did my cousins. I was furious with her, because she was only just now telling me this. Well, I got checked, and yes, I had a high risk of developing breast cancer as well. For one of my cousins, the solution was simple. She was going to get her chest removed now, so she wouldn't have to worry about it later. When I talked to her, she strongly advised me to follow in her footsteps if I wasn't interested in dying young. The next day I let my parents know that I was wanting to go through with chest removal surgery, and surprisingly, they were both very accepting of my idea. Here's where my boyfriend comes in. He had been with me the whole time of my mother's diagnosis, and even my own. He was very comforting and reassured me that he'd be by my side no matter what. Apparently, getting a double mastectomy wasn't part of the deal. When I told him to say goodbye to my chest because they're gonna leave eventually, his face dropped. Really? Was the one first thing he said. I explained everything to him, how my cousin also got a mastectomy, and how it's not 100% sure that I'm going to be cancer-free. Either way, it was the option for me and the one I decided to pick. He said, "Oh. Cool, I guess. Would you get new ones?" I got kind of mad that he even was thinking about that when this was potentially a life or death decision for me. He seemed in shock and tried to play it off, but I could feel the shift in his attitude. Eventually, I got so uncomfortable I had to leave. This morning, I woke up to a message from one of my mutual friends, sharing many screenshots from chats he'd had with my boyfriend. He said he couldn't hide this from me knowing how in the wrong my boyfriend was. My boyfriend basically said that he looked up aftermath photos of mastectomies, and he's grossed out by the scars. He said he doesn't want to be with someone with a weird and masculine-looking chest. He said that he loves me and my body, but he's a big chest guy. The fact that his perfect girl is now gonna lose the best part of her was apparently a big turn-off for him. After explaining his stupid reasoning, he also asked my friend on how to bring this up to me without looking like a jerk. My friend called him out, and told him that there's absolutely no way to explain his reasoning without looking like a moron. So, my boyfriend decided to suck it up and just not bring it up to me ever. He said he would eventually find an excuse to break up with me without making it obvious. I felt ill, and betrayed. I was devastated. My life is literally in danger, and all he can think about is that he won't be able to touch my chest again. My surgery is 5 days from now. I'm nervous, and now I'm depressed. The person who supposedly supported my decisions is planning on how to break up with me. All because I decided to look out for my own health. He's an idiot, a stupid childish idiot, but still he managed to twist and add an insecurity that wasn't there. I really didn't mind the operation. I couldn't care less not having a chest again, if it meant I was in better health. But now, all these ideas of scars and the masculinization of my body is taking a toll on me. I don't really know what to do. I broke up with my boyfriend over text after seeing those messages, and haven't thought about him since. I'm just waiting for my surgery, hoping everything goes smoothly.
What is the weirdest flex you are proud of? I nearly became my ex-girlfriend's stepdad after she cheated on me. My ex-girlfriend, Jess, was an absolute piece of garbage. Throughout our relationship, Jess knew that I was subpar looking, and she was super pretty. She loved to point this out, and took advantage of it often. I guess where I went wrong was, well, I never stopped her. She would verbally abuse me, and physically too. Even though I knew that her laying hands on me was not right, I put up with it. She cheated on me more times than I can count while we dated. It got so bad that she would get with guys in clubs right in front of me, and I wouldn't do anything about it. After all, she was the one who took my V card, and it made me fall in love. In my eyes, she could do nothing wrong to me. She treated me so poorly, and I regret being so blinded by what I thought was love. Looking back now, I don't think she ever actually loved me. Jess humiliated me over and over, yet I did nothing to stop it. I was acting like Adam 22, completely oblivious to how messed up our relationship was. The cherry on top was that she was the one who broke up with me, not the other way around. What did I do to deserve getting broken up with? She just got tired of me. In her words, we attended the same college. So I saw her the next week with a new guy. Already. This guy was about 6'4", black and built. I knew he was probably better than I ever was, and I cried about it. I saw how she looked at him. She never looked at me like that. That night I reached the lowest I'd ever been. I went home and took care of myself to the thought of them together. It was humiliating. Well, It might have been the best thing I'd ever done. The post-hug clarity was insane. So wild it inspired me to make a change right then and there. I looked at myself in the mirror. I felt disgusted. You just flogged your log to the thought of your ex being with her new man. You're a loser. You change right here right now, or you'll never change at all. I had already bought a gym membership, so thought I may as well use it. So I went to the gym again the next day. I was humbled when even just pressing the bar was hard. Halfway through my workout, to my utter horror I saw her. Jess and her new boyfriend, Philip. Jess and I made eye contact, and I pretended not to notice as Philip benched 315 for a set of 5. My jaw was on the floor watching him. He was a better man in every way than me. I was benching the bar when I saw Jess look over, and smirk with this ugly look on her face. I felt so humiliated, but I finally had something. I took all the built-up hatred I had for Jess, and used it to fuel my workouts. Every day, I'd get up and hit the gym, eat right, and continue to study my butt off. I kept improving. About 6 months in, I started looking at supplementation as I had become a gym fiend. I moved on from barely pressing the bar to pressing 135 for 6. Believe it or not, Philip and I became great friends after he broke up with Jess when he caught her cheating. He taught me everything he knew, and helped me start taking creatine. Over the next 6 months, I saw huge improvements in each of my workouts. I hadn't thought about Jess much, but her nasty stench still lingered in my nostrils. One day after our joint workout, Philip asked if I wanted to get back at Jess. I was a little caught off guard, but intrigued. I asked him what he meant, and he told me he knew of a way that I could sleep with her mother. He said that after they broke up, Philip had tried making a move on Jess's mom, but she said she wasn't into black guys. She was, however, into my exact type. White, slightly nerdy but with a toned physique. After a moment of thought, I told him I was down. He gave me her number, and I texted her the very same day. I played the role of a 28-year-old smoker. I said that a friend of hers showed me pictures, and I thought she was beautiful. To my surprise, she actually responded. She asked which friend I was talking about, and I told her Philip. Her responses seemed to instantly become more frequent and suggestive after that. A week after texting, she invited me over to her place when it was free. I wasn't ever introduced to her by Jess, so her recognizing me was not an issue. That night we did it, and oh my god, was it heavenly. King Arthur couldn't have pulled me out. Multiple rounds. Over the span of 2 months of regular intimacy, she fell in love with me. I felt bad, since this wasn't my original plan, but oh well. I needed to go out with a bang. Literally. A week or so later, I invited her out to dinner at a super fancy restaurant. I made hints about her being my girlfriend all night, and that's when I dropped the bombshell. Sorry ma'am. I have something to tell you. My name is Gilbert. When you get home, ask Jess about me. I have no interest in relations with you. She was stunned, and before she could say anything, I left enough money to more than cover the bill, and left the restaurant. Later that night I was bombarded with texts and phone calls from Jess, but I didn't care. I was too busy in the gym getting my mojo on. What's the worst case of bad parenting you've ever seen? For 7 months, they've been leaving their mentally challenged daughter unsupervised for hours, and it's dangerous for everyone. I had to do something about it. At first, I talked with them, and they were very apologetic, promising it wouldn't happen again. Recently, they seem to not care anymore, and are leaving her alone for longer and longer periods of time. It started off with small things. Occasionally, she would climb our 6 fence with a ladder from her parents' shed, and would open our back doors to let our dogs into the backyard. This wasn't usually a huge deal, except when she would close the door and leave my dogs stranded outside for hours if we weren't home. It's only gotten worse over time. Soon after, she began not only opening our back doors, but also the gate to our backyard. I found this out the hard way when I nearly ran over our dog in the driveway coming home from work. Luckily, they were trained and didn't run away. At the time, I didn't know who it was and figured I must have accidentally left the gate open, but after weeks of coming home to find my dog somewhere in my yard, I installed cameras. Lo and behold, I see the neighbor's daughter climbing our fence with a ladder. Sometimes when she climbs the fence, she cannot get back out, and will instead break down crying until one of us lets her out or her neighbors hop the fence to get her out. Since then, I've started chaining my fence, simply to prevent her from letting my dogs out. Now, when she gets stuck, her parents have to carry the ladder over to help her get out since they can't use the fence. This started a huge argument between us, and somehow I came out as the one at fault. I don't blame her in the slightest, as I'm well aware she doesn't know any better. I'm very frustrated with her parents though, and she's lucky my dogs are nice. I just honestly worry about her safety in the backyard, climbing fences and her seemingly not being watched as she needs to be. I have a pool, and if she falls in when I'm not home she could very well drown. I've installed security cameras in the backyard and front yard purely for my own safety insurance. I've called CPS several times in the past 2 months to report it because I feel she is at a major risk of injuring herself, or worse. Her parents' inattentiveness and their seemingly not caring attitude of her just wandering off is really worrying. The only real thing I had left was calling non-emergency and asking an officer to come out to help, so I did. The officer and his supervisor show up and I tell them what's been going on. I showed the countless hours of footage I have of the girl letting my dogs out, climbing my fence and so on. The supervisor then left the room, and returned with 3 flash drives, asking me to copy the videos over so they could use it as evidence. I filled out a form, copied the videos over, and handed it over to the officers. About 45 minutes later, after many phone calls from the supervisor, 2 CPS workers showed up to review the footage, and get a full statement from me. The officers and CPS workers then went next door to my neighbor's house to talk to the parents, but were promptly shut down with a door in their face. Unfortunately, with the video evidence and my statement, they had more than a probable cause to enter the house. After about 15 minutes inside, the husband was brought out in handcuffs and put into the back of an extra cruiser that had only just gotten there. And 20 minutes after that, the same fate fell upon the wife. Their daughter was put in the CPS van, and an hour later, after talking some more, all three headed off. I talked to the initial officer, and he told me they found a sizable amount of substances in the house. Along with the footage, the evidence, and their obvious neglect, they deemed the house unfit for the daughter, and the parents were arrested for endangering their child. They were charged and sentenced to a couple years each, and I don't doubt they've learned their lesson. The girl was put into foster care, and is now living with a lovely couple who takes very good care of her. I just hope her old parents never have kids again.